Hey guys, welcome to the Vendas B2B Summit. Today I have a very special international speaker. Her name is Dominique Levin. As a venture capitalist, CEO, and CMO, she created over $800 million in shareholder value while also helping to define and create new categories for log management, customer success, predictive marketing, where she published a book about it. And currently she runs her own company with Jaco van der Kooi, who is also one of our speakers. Dominique, thank you very much for accepting our invitation and welcome to the summit.
Oh, you're welcome. Very nice to be here.
So before we start, can you tell us a little bit about your background and your experience with customer success? That is the topic that we are talking about today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, I've been obsessed with, I would say, go-to-market strategies for about 10 years or so. There's an interesting story there that might be relevant. So I was CEO of a company called LogLogic, and LogLogic actually was quite a successful company in the log management space. It was sold to TIBCO for a couple $100 million. I mean, not unsuccessful, obviously. But interestingly, in the week that we sold LogLogic, there was another company your viewers might have heard of, a company called Splunk. And Splunk went public actually in the same week as LogLogic. And I often like to tell the story because it's such a perfect sort of business school case study where these are two companies in the same market, similar products. They each had about 1,000 enterprise customers and about $50 million in revenue. So all these factors were the same: market timing, size, etc. And nevertheless, Splunk had a market cap that was at least 10 times, right? And quickly became 15 times more valuable. So how can it be? There's these two companies, why? Right, yeah, Daniel, why? What happened? So basically, the complete difference between these two companies was their go-to-market model. Right, so Splunk was one of the earlier companies to have a land and expand model where you could have a free version of the software downloaded onto your computer right away and start using it. And I would say LogLogic was an enterprise 1.0 company where you had to first talk to sales, and then we would ship you a box, put it on a truck. You could rack it, stack it before you could try it. So anyway, for me, that really was the start of a journey.
There's something there, right? I have to know a little bit more about go-to-market.
Yes, exactly. So it's not just what you sell, we like to say at Winning by Design, but how you sell, right? So this was a very clear example where a company won not based on what they were selling and their product, but their go-to-market strategy. And so again, that started for me a journey that led me to different companies that, like you mentioned, that all are innovating around how B2B companies go to market. You mentioned the book I wrote on predictive marketing, which is using artificial intelligence and algorithms to do better targeting. And then you mentioned customer success. So that's the topic of today, right? So I was the founding CMO of a company called Tatango, which is obviously one of the pioneers in the customer success software space. And as such, I also was the founder of the first ever customer success summit. So many years ago, way before, I don't know, Gainsight or Lincoln Murphy or any of these came onto the scene. So I guess I could consider myself, I don't know, the godmother of customer success. I really have a passion for it. And I think at Winning by Design, we believe that, selling isn't just about closing a deal, right? I mean, selling is about creating customer value. Right, it starts long before you ever close a deal, and it ends long after you close that first deal. And so so this is how I fell in love, I guess, with customer success, and had the privilege to work with many of the pioneers in that space.
Great. Just about how important go-to-market is. We were talking with Mark Roberge, and he says that if you look at the category leaders, usually are who execute better marketing and sales, not who have the best products. And I completely agree. And you had a great example of how this reflects in their valuation. But Dominique, what trends do you see right now in customer success? What you expect to see in the next few years?
Yeah, no, I think that customer success obviously is really growing up, right? I mean, it has conquered a success, a seat in the boardroom. I think slowly, CEOs are starting to allocate more budget, as they should, right, to the growth trajectory post initial sale. I think there's still a lot of work to be done. And I think part of what you see in the customer success movement growing up is that initially the results or the focus was really on churn, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was about churn prevention. I personally don't like that view. I think it's about growth. And more importantly, because it's a win-win, it is about delivering value to the customer, but it's also about revenue from the customer, right? And maximizing customer lifetime value over time. And I think customer success is becoming more and more about sales, right? And less about customer support and churn prevention. And, I say that because our view is that modern sales really is about, helping customers and solving problems for them and such. And so who better, right, to play an instrumental role in that than the customer success organization.
Yeah, I completely agree. We in a sales event, and we have a content track about customer success, because we really think we also see as a growth engine and not as churn prevention only. And I think it's so important for sales professionals to understand the mindset of customer success more than tactics. Understand that he's just starting a relationship that probably, when you talk about customer lifetime value, most part of this value will be not with the first sale, but probably in the next few years of relationship. So we're talking about sales and customer success and long-term relationships. So in your opinion, what is the best time to upsell a customer? So after you have this initial sale, what is the best time to do upsells?
Yeah, great question. Now, my answer might be a little bit counterintuitive. I actually think that the upsell starts with the first conversation that you have with a customer. So if I sort of draw maybe for you, since I have my whiteboard here,
Great.
The customer funnel, right, that we all know, the bow tie that extends beyond the initial sale, right? So initially, if you look at it from a customer perspective, we talk about this as the moment that the customer realizes that they have a problem, right? Like, I have a problem. Then you go into, there is a solution. So this is a customer-centric. So rather than talking about, awareness, etc., we're talking about how does the customer experience this, right? And you get into, maybe this vendor is really the right vendor for me. Boom, it's working as advertised, etc. And I continue going after that. But what's interesting is that really at this first moment, right, we call this the value creation point. A lot of value is created when you first start educating a customer about how to solve their problem, right? We often say to our salespeople, prescription before diagnosis is malpractice, right? So it's really ultimately all about, in these early stages of customer interaction, understanding what is the impact that I can have on a customer's business. And in some ways, you start orchestrating the upsell right there, by agreeing with the customer on sort of an improvement plan, right? So I'm going to sell you my software. You're going to buy my product because in some way I can improve your business. And that diagnosis happens here. And then what we sell to customer success professionals, it really should be repeated right here. And so what's interesting is that if you look at we call it blueprint, right? So the blueprint of this meeting, which is the initial discovery call that maybe an SDR or a salesperson might have, that blueprint is actually very similar to the blueprint of what we call a business orchestration meeting that happens there. And I use that term because everybody does a technical kickoff, but a lot of customer success managers forget to sort of re-diagnose in some ways the customer, right? A lot could have changed since here and here, right? And so we always say, repeat sort of your diagnose right here. Understand from the customer, right? What is it that they're looking to achieve? What is the business impact that I can have? And then take sort of a broader view, right? I mean, in some ways, customers here are in a honeymoon period. Right? This is the first time you're on the same side of the table. Typically, everybody's very excited. No bugs have occurred yet, no disappointment, no disillusionment. Not that, of course, our listeners have all perfect products, but every new product is hard, right? I mean, you need to learn something new. So there's psychology, there is this slope, right? Gartner has their hype cycle. Like I get very excited and I start using or doing something new. It's sort of hard. I might get disillusioned, and eventually I'll see the benefit and realize the benefit. But this point in time, right after you close the deal, is probably the most important meeting that you can have with the customer. And I see too many companies miss that moment. We call it if this is the value creation point, this is the orchestration moment where really I can start to foreshadow with the customer, right? The entire journey that we're going on together. So this could be 12 months. It's typically a good period of time, right? Where I start, okay, let's solve your problem, your immediate problem first and improve your business in a certain way. But you can already talk at this point about, typically what we see with other customers is that after 5 months, we might start looking for another business department where we can have the same impact that could also benefit from the solution. And so you do this in a very customer-centric way, but in some ways you're already orchestrating, right, or setting up the upsell, because this additional problem that you might solve might involve buying additional features or licenses or selling to another department or whatever the case may be. But it's really this point that you orchestrate and then just reference that later on, right, in conversations you might have with customers down the road.
I love this concept of orchestrating the success and defining those milestones. Where I say, well, 6 months from now, you're probably going to have a different need or to expand or different functionalities. And you already plan this upsell in a customer-centric way because the customer probably gonna need it.
Right.
So the sale, this upsell is really natural when it happens because everybody's already agreed that in certain point we're gonna need more or need different or need something, and it's already pre-arranged or like pre-agreed.
Right.
So I love this concept.
Exactly.
And what in your opinion are the biggest mistakes you see customer success professionals making?
Yeah, so I think one we already touched on, right? So one is this idea of missing the orchestration moment, right? But I think the other one is that most customer success professionals are too humble. Right, so an exercise I might do is so if you're playing for a second the customer success manager, I might go like, so Daniel, how often have you implemented your solution with customers? And you might say, I don't know, make something up.
100, I think.
100 times, right? I mean, if you've been on the job for a while, even if it's 10 times, but I think 100 is a pretty common answer. Okay, great. Now, what about your customer, Mr. Customer that you're working with? How often do you think the customer has implemented your solution?
Maybe once.
Once, if you're lucky, right? Yeah. Often might be the first time. Maybe if you're lucky, they've done it at another employer, but likely between 0 and 1. So what I tell customer success professionals is realize you are basically 100 times more expert in what it takes to be successful with your solution. And I think too many customer success managers don't share everything they know, right? Don't share. We talk about this journey.
They don't see themselves as an experts, right?
Right. And experts, not just on features, but on what does it take to be successful, right? What have you seen successful customers do? Like I was working with a company that sells to schools, right? And so when we did this exercise, we found out that there really are things, not just that the vendor can do, but that the school needs to do to be successful, right? So in their case, it turned out that if they appointed a lead teacher to be sort of the champion early on. And that lead teacher would then lead sort of lunch sessions with their colleagues to answer questions, right? That would really improve the results. And then they found out that maybe if that teacher has some giveaways, maybe some t-shirts to give away for all the teachers that completed their first course with this new software, then that would help. So all of these now become things that you could bake in, right, to your 12-month journey. You could tell new customers, like, oh, well, what we've found is that schools like you really benefit from appointing a lead teacher, and we can ship you a box of t-shirts so that teacher can do a lunch and learn and give away those t-shirts to teachers who do their first course. But that, I think that is one, being very prescriptive, right, about what does it take, what is the pitfalls, what are the success factors, giving even your customer homework, right? We both want to be successful. Let me tell you what to do. In the next 30 days, you need to complete these 3 tasks. Find a lead teacher, and put her in charge, and schedule a date for a lunch and learn, whatever the case may be, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that is probably, the biggest missed opportunity for many companies.
Great. Another doubt that I hear a lot is how often do you think a customer success team should check in with the customers? And should they do this on a weekly, monthly basis? What is your opinion?
Oh my God. Now you have me on the pet peeve. So I used to, as you mentioned in the introduction, I'm a former CMO. And as you know, in marketing, we use many tools these days. So I had maybe 50 vendors. I don't know, probably more, right? So I think a common mistake is that many success managers say, oh, it's an important client. I need to do frequent check-ins. No, I don't want frequent check-ins. If every vendor were to do a weekly check-in with me, I would have a full-time job, managing all these vendors, right? So I think most customers don't necessarily want more meetings, right? More customers want to hear from you, sort of at the right time. So maybe here I can draw another picture. Let's see if I could erase this stuff. So it's almost turning it around, like, don't check in as often as possible. In some ways, it's check in as little as possible, but don't miss an opportunity to add value. So what that could look like is, so we already talked about this, the called the kickoff, right? Very important, not just technical kickoff, but also this business orchestration we talked about. So that's, as I said, probably the most important meeting. And somewhere along the line, if this is, let's say the 12-month renewal mark, somewhere along the lines, maybe at halfway, let's say halfway, I probably want to do what we call an impact review. But you might know this as an executive business review or a quarterly business review. So I don't want to use that term because it doesn't have to happen quarterly. There is a check-in point somewhere between, right, kickoff and renewal date, where you want to look back again at that 12-month plan, right? So I've created a 12-month plan here. And then here I want to see how we're doing. I'm going to re-diagnose the customer, make sure nothing has changed. Yeah. And essentially, I'm going to make a new 12-month plan also with them at that point in time. Now, look what that does to the renewal date. That just becomes a point in time, right? So I don't know, do you play golf or tennis?
Tennis.
Do you have a good tennis swing? Show me your tennis swing.
Not really good, but I have played before.
Like something like this, right? I like, you need to swing through. So we're saying here, I want you to have that image. We're swinging through the renewal date, right? We
understand. Okay.
Swing through. Okay. So now this renewal, I have already a new plan, right? Of all the impact we can have and the ways we can improve your business. So this is only 2 meetings. So people tell me, oh, wait a minute, that seems scary. So I'm like, okay, there's 2 conditions. Okay. You can do this plan with customers, but under 2 conditions. One is you must send the executives a monthly report, right? Because typically, let's say the decision maker, right, the business person in the deal, they are not logging into your system. But if you send them a monthly report, right, with how are we doing against that plan that we had agreed on, what we find is that they are ferocious readers of those reports, right? They made an investment with you. They want this thing to be deployed. They want it to deliver value. And by the way, so they're opening that report like crazy. And if you're falling behind, you probably sometimes don't even have to do anything. It might be the business sponsor in-house that goes like, wait a minute, why are we not using this thing? Why, right? I mean, so that creates a lot of momentum. So that is sort of condition number one. So send these monthly reports. And then condition number two is that, so if these are, call it scheduled, right? So these are scheduled interactions with your customers. I want to make sure that you also have what we call alert-driven interactions with your customers, right? So you must also set up alerts, right, for things that could go wrong, right? So if a customer maybe isn't using it or filing a lot of bugs or, you know, whatever the case may be. But then not only think about the negative things that could happen here. Again, you asked me earlier about mistakes, right? So I think most customer success managers forget to, or success teams forget to also think about the upside, right? So there's in a typical organization, I find plenty of alerts for customers at risk, but what about alerts for customers that are ready to buy more, right? That might have an opportunity to have an expansion conversation. So there should equally be alerts. Could be they recently acquired another company, they're close to their number of licenses, whatever the case may be. So these are sort of your guardrails, as you will, right? So you're going to have these relatively few scheduled meetings. There's probably a renewal conversation somewhere there that hopefully is a non-event. Mm-hmm. But other than that, you know, these alerts will make sure that you talk at the right time, right? And magic happens. Even if it's a bug and I get a call like, oh my God, thank you for calling. I was just having this problem.
It's a great framework. And I think like there's the renewal, it's something really natural, right? Because it's in the middle of the second orchestration. So amazing. And how do you see the customer success organization changing over the course of a company's history? That for every stage, you have a great article about it. I have that graphic, if you will. I think I'm going to share it.
Okay, great. Yeah.
That is in one of your articles. It's great.
That's great. Perfect. Yeah.
How do you see this organization changing during this stages of the company life?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, happy to talk to this. So basically what you see on this graphic is that early in the life of a company, you really have no, I mean, you have a one size fits all, or like wear many hats customer success manager, right? So, and the same thing, by the way, on sales. So you see the green here is customer success. The blue is the sales organization. So the first thing that you see happen when a customer grows up, we typically recommend that you start creating customer support and customer success as separate organizations, right? The difference being that customer support is reactive, right? 24/7 available for customer problems, questions, etc. Customer success is proactive, is doing this orchestration and planning, thinking about business goals and so forth. So this is typically the first thing that needs to happen as you grow. Otherwise, customer success, will be swamped and proactive won't happen, basically. Even though you could argue it's the more important part of the job. So it's the first thing we see happen. And then shortly thereafter, you see that something is happening on the sales side as well. So on the sales side, initially, typically there is no distinction between hunter sales and farmer sales. But there too, as your customer base grows, right, the task of renewing and expanding customers becomes so big that if you don't split the role, one of two things will suffer. So we see some organizations that are good at mining their base. The acquisition of new logos starts to taper off if it's one person. It's too easy to go back. Or if you have a very hunter-oriented sales force, right, and sometimes it's linked to compensation plans as well, they forget that actually the easier money might be with their existing base. So similar there, you start to see a split between hunter and farmer sales as a next step.
Have Aaron Ross here evangelizing this here in Brazil. He's a big fan of specialized sales team, and we talk a little bit about that in our session during the event too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and then after that, so now we are in phase 4, I guess, on the graph you put up. You see more specialized functions starting to split off of the customer success organization. Onboarding, this might happen a little earlier. It depends a little on the complexity of your product, right? So the more involved the installation and integration of your product, the sooner this will happen, right? Where you really have sometimes it's almost more of a technical account manager type of role, right? Who will do the installation. With again the success manager remains involved as that business orchestration person. And then similarly, you have more classic functions like training or professional services that will start to emerge as specialized functions as a company matures.
Great. One thing that really called my attention is because you said that you don't think that a customer success should be responsible for upsells and cross-sells, right?
Yeah, sort of. It's interesting because there was a point in my career that I was very passionately advocating that customer success is the ideal profile for a salesperson. And maybe one day I will get my way. The reason I believe that is because, again, modern sales, it has to be customer-centric. It has to be about empathizing with the customer's problem, a true desire to add value and deliver impact on the customers. So these are really qualities that we see with customer success. So we advocate them for sales. So why not have customer success then be the sales team? But I think I've come to accept that, at least for the time being and for the foreseeable future, most customer success teams don't see themselves that way. And it is also true that with sales come, a lot of administrative tasks and specialized skills as far as, maybe orchestrating, an account and decision makers and so forth, having conversations about pricing. And so, yeah, so typically we do see a sales person of some sort, right? We said it could in the early days be the same person, hunter-farmer combo, and then later a dedicated farmer come back to handle those aspects. However, I am very passionately, I feel very strongly that customer success must have a role. They are still the closest to the customer to understand what is that next impact we can have, right? How can we make our champion a hero and maybe have our champion refer us into another business unit and improve that business unit and then make them a hero, whatever it is. So in some ways, I look at the CSM team as the SDR team to the sales team, right? Sort of like the SDR team to account management. And I really recommend that you bake that into their comp plan. It doesn't have to be a commission plan. It could be an NBO, right? Just regular goals. But absolutely put a number on that and say, okay, you need to deliver this quarter this many leads, right? Call them leads, right? Meetings that are expansion meetings, that are expansion opportunities. Maybe it's, right, those alerts, those moments. But put a number on that, because it is really important. And if you separate the customer success and farmer sales roles, the biggest problem farmer sales will have is not knowing really the account intimately enough. So that way, you probably get the best of both worlds.
Right. I love that analogy of like the CSM as the SDR for the farmer salesperson. I think it's a great way to look at it. And Dominique, a lot of people is starting to thinking about customer success here in Brazil. When do you think is the right time to hire the first CSM? Do you think is the second, third hire, fifth hire? When do you think a SaaS company should hire their first CSM?
Yeah, no, we do see that happens very early. And think back of the chart I had, right? So I have it sort of CSM/support. I think customer success is the more popular term now. Used to be would be customer support, but having a dedicated customer success person really happens very early. I sometimes indeed even see founders hire that person before they hire professional sales, right? Because think about it, I'm a founder, I need to make that transition from founder sales to professional sales, and that's happening in stages. But the first thing you probably want to do is make sure that those customers that you've signed as a founder are in good hands and are going to, deliver on its commitment, because they're the ones that are going to refer you new customers, right? It's going to be your poster child, your reference accounts. So we see that sometimes happen even before, indeed, the professional sales team comes in. So very early, absolutely.
Because I saw many CEOs here in Brazil saying that they regret not thinking about customer success earlier in their process. Maybe they just started actually having a formal CS customer success organizations later on. Dominique, thank you very much for sharing all these frameworks and tips and ways to look at it at customer success. What final tips or suggestions do you have for our Brazilian audience, especially for people who are starting to build their CSM organizations, their customer success organizations? What do you think is the main priorities that they have to think about it?
Yeah, I think really, what we say, both in sales and customer success, as we said at the beginning of the call or the conversation, it is not just what you sell, but how you sell, right? So we talk about the science of sales. By the way, I think there is really an opportunity for Brazilian and international companies in some ways to leapfrog even American companies, right? But look at it as a process and something that you need to design with as much attention and care, right, as you designed your product. It really deserves that focus and attention. And if you do that, you can truly differentiate based on your go-to-market, like we saw in the beginning of the conversation, and maybe be that company, right, that disrupts their market, their category, not just based on what they sell, but on how they sell and how they treat customers. So the sooner you start and the more systematic you start, right, really design this as a blueprint and a process from the early days. And I think the more successful you'll be.
Great. How people can know more about you and Winning by Design? You guys have an operation here in Brazil. Do you have any plans or initiatives in Brazil soon?
Yeah,
what is the best place to get to know more about?
So you can check out winningbydesign.com, and our person in Brazil is Renata. She can be reached at renata@winningbydesign.com. She has lots of workshops coming up that I'm sure she'd be happy to tell you about if you can't find them on our website. But yeah, we're very passionate trying to help the Brazilian market grow, and again, with local resources as well to make that happen. Great,
Dominique. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Good luck with the conference. Bye.
Thank you.